Lottery will be coming up in a couple of months. The Cavs know they're going to have a chance at the #1 overall pick, as good as anybody. Is there a dominant name, that jumps out to the average guy following the NBA? There doesn't appear to be a Zion Williamson or a guy that's a must-have, lock guy you can build your franchise around that would be the first pick in this draft.
I was talking to a GM the other day, Dave, and they said it just the way that you did. There is no Zion. There is no Ja Morant. There might not even be an RJ Barrett in this particular class. This class is viewed very, very similar to the 2013 draft. Now, the 2013 draft brought Victor Oladipo, and it brought Giannis. But at the same time, it brought Anthony Bennett and Ben McLemore and Nerlens Noel, I believe, and some of those other guys. So there's just so much mystery in this class. It's a tough evaluation because a number of the top guys, there are legitimate question marks. James Wiseman is considered in the top tier of players, and he played 3 games at Memphis, right? Like 25 of the 28 shots that he made were dunks or layups. It's very, very hard to evaluate that kind of kid. You have to go back to what he did in high school, what he did in the pre-college camps. LaMelo-Ball went to Australia. The level of competition in Australia, very, very different to begin with. And then he suffers a foot injury. So now you have to parse through all of that when it comes to LaMelo. Anthony Edwards, the other kid considered in the top tier, and that's the top tier if you talk to a lot of executives around the NBA. Different executives have them in different order, but it's LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards of Georgia, his team had one of the worst records in the SEC. So you ask yourself, okay, well, what did he really do while he was there, his 1 year at Georgia? He didn't impact winning. So what do those stats really say about him? It's a very, very hard class to figure out. There are people that believe the best player from this year's class is going to come outside the top 5. But we'll just have to wait and see. For the Cavs, they can fall no lower than number 6 based on where they fell in the standings. And they've got a lot of work to do, Dave, to figure out who's going to fit best, number 1, and who's going to become the best player from this class. The thing that I do know about the Cavs, where they are in this rebuild, they are not going to focus on position, and they're not yet going to allow fit to drive this decision. It's going to be who they consider the most talented player, the best player from this class, regardless of positional fit. So if that means they take a guard, that means they take a guard, even though they've spent the last 2 high picks on that position.
Does that make you scratch your head a little bit? I get where they're going with that, because it isn't like, which of these guys could be outstanding, but at some point in time, if Darius Garland and Colin Sexton do what you think they're going to do based on where you drafted them, you can't get another guy that's under 6'4".
Right, and I think if you're making an argument for somebody like Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball, the thing that you can say is, despite the fact that they do play the same position as some of the other guys that you use high picks on, they bring different elements, right? They bring a different skill set, or they bring different traits. LaMelo Ball is a supersized guard. So yeah, he plays the same position as Darius Garland, but he doesn't play the same way, and he isn't built the same. Anthony Edwards, yeah, is he a ball-dominant guy? Does he look to score first in the way that Colin Sexton does? Sure, but he also has a 7-foot wingspan that could allow him to defend 2s and 3s and give you a little bit more size and length in the backcourt. So if there's a justification, it's that. But I understand where you're coming from. I think a lot of fans would ask the same questions, and I think they would scoff. Like, really? 3 years in a row, you're going to use a high pick on a guard? Like, that's really, really tough to sell. But I think the way that the Cavs would try and sell it is, we're not in a position right now where we can dismiss any number of guys with any level of talent simply based on fit and position. I think they're in a position, Dave, where they're trying to accumulate as much talent as possible and put a lot of faith in J.B. Bickerstaff and his ability as a head coach to just make the pieces fit.
A guy that, played collegiately around here, down south in Dayton, Obi-Toppin, Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hear from NBA folks about how his game might translate or might not, or some of the questions about him?
People believe that he's the best offensive player in the draft, and I think he showed that this past year at Dayton. He was one of the best college basketball players, so you feel like you have an idea of what you're going to get from him on the offensive end. The two biggest questions, Dave: one, what position is he? Is he a smaller five, or is he going to play four? A lot of people have said, what about playing him at three, similar to like Larry Nance Jr. did in the supersized lineup that the Cavs trotted out there towards the end of the stoppage? And then the other question is defensively. Can he defend at the level that he's going to have to defend to be a 28 to 30 minute a night guy? Because if he can't, then he's probably going to be like a high energy bench player. And then the question becomes, how high of a pick do you want to invest in that kind of piece? So the other thing is, he's 22 years old already. He's further along in the developmental curve. So yes, you have more clarity on maybe what he can be, and you've got more information to go off of, but you ask yourself about the ceiling and the upside and the potential. And if you're looking for like a star type player at the top of the draft, does he fit that because he's more of a finished product than, say, James Wiseman from Memphis? So I think if a team is looking for a safer option, they'll probably go the direction of Obi. And if they're looking for the high upside type, they'll go with Big O from USC or James Wiseman from Memphis.